ASMR video. Today, as you've probably seen by the thumbnail, we've got some bubble mint gum back on that grind again. I love the bubble mint, it's my favourite. Got a couple of pieces here. Oh my god, it's the best flavour, I swear. Got my jar of gum here. I'm just gonna have a little ramble today. So, I thought I'd do a gum ramble. Again, I've just been trying to catch up on doing some stuff. But the subject of my ramble today is partly one of the reasons why free time that I've had, or at least when I was ill or injured, whatever, a lot of the time that I couldn't do stuff I spent doing this. You've already seen it by the thumbnail, probably, in the title, but I've been fighting for managed democracy, killing bugs and bots. Oh yeah, I've been grinding Helldivers 2. Man, I really enjoy this game, man. I really enjoy it. It's one of the best games I've played for a while. You know, like, it doesn't have like it's not like a narrative game in the sense like versus Baldur's Gate or Spider-Man or anything like that. But it has an exceptional gameplay loop, which is why I think these are my favourites. I've spent so much time in this game that I didn't expect to spend on it. So I've played it a lot, and I've loved every second of it. That's why it's up there. So I just want to have a little chat about it because I enjoy it. If you're not aware what Helldivers 2 is, it's basically a third-person shooter game. But that is just scratching the barrel. I believe it's what people would call an extraction shooter, which basically means you have a hub, and then you go and do missions. You go in. They're usually got time limits. What they do in this game have time constraints. You go in, you do some objectives, and you leave. And oftentimes you'll return to a similar map to do missions again, which sounds like it could get boring, but the gameplay loop is so satisfying that, and there's some other gimmicks that the game employs, that means that it doesn't necessarily feel that way. So, really a fun experience. That's the kind of the shorthand of the genre. You can hear some like chirping birds right outside the window. That's the foundational description of it. Third-person shooter extraction. But that doesn't really encompass what it is. So one of the USPs of this is it's almost like a massive multiplayer game. So if you've ever played an MMO, it's similar to that in the sense that there are lots of other players. Now you're not all in the same server necessarily, not really. Not everyone's character exists at the same, in the same play space. However, in theory it does, and what I mean by that is everyone plays as part of the Helldivers, who are basically the military, or very specific section of the military in for Super Earth. And the thing you've got to realise about it is it's very much like Starship Troopers. I mean, it's literally Starship Troopers because one of the enemy types are bugs. But it's a very strong-handed satire on imperialism, capitalism, and basically sense of humanity. So human and propaganda, really. So Super Earth are going out to defeat these socialist bots who hate democracy, and bugs who also hate democracy, who are trying to destroy our way of life. It's very obvious that the Helldivers and Super Earth are the villains, right? But the joke is that you play as them and like you give in to the propaganda, but it's satire. It sadly seems that many people don't understand that. I've seen so many people talk about how it's not satire. It's like keep politics out of the game. You're playing a political game. The game is political satire. You can't keep, if you take the politics out of the game doesn't exist. Some people are just stupid, I'll be honest. Like, that is just a stupid thing to say about a game. Especially one that is literally a political satire game. But whatever. That's just the unfortunate nature. Sometimes when you're so strong-handed with your satire, people who it is satirizing will assume that it is genuine because they unironically think that way. That's probably the only downside. But either way, the game itself is good. So yeah, that's the idea. You play as like this sort of satirization of humanity. You play as like really the villains, but you're not. Well, you are, but like you're the protagonist of the game, and the propaganda is like Super Earth is just like a managed democracy, which is the whole point is that it's not actually a democracy, right? They have like a vote day, which is just a public holiday where you don't actually cast votes, but it's a meaningful thing about voting and democracy. But yeah, so I think I've waved on enough about that. I'm sorry about this chair. I still haven't fixed it. I don't know why it's being so creaky. But yeah, that's the sort of like narrative of it. But the continuing what I was saying about the USB is that that sounds like a really posh accent there. USB. Part of the USP of it is that it's an evolving game, right? So there are live service elements to it in the sense like things are being updated. There are war bonds, which are the equivalent of a battle pass. However, it is very approachable. There is a great battle pass that doesn't exist. It's just a leveling system that doesn't require you to put money in. When you buy the game, you basically get the whole game. There is some microtransaction stuff and some other like content that's hidden behind a paywall, but it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse. But I can imagine for some people it would be like a frustrating idea, but at the end of the day, like there is a paywall, but like in comparison to other games is marginal, and for the amount of content they're introducing into it, I think every so often injecting a little bit of cash I wouldn't feel so bad about, because it has a lot of content in there, and the stuff they give is not like $20 for a few like, I'm gonna just say $3 because let's be honest, it's exactly the same thing. That buys you like one skin, a pickaxe, and that's it. Whereas the paid battle passes have 3 pages of things that you can begin to unlock with medals that you earn in the game, and that is a currency that you just earn by playing the game. It's not, you don't buy that at all. The only thing you can buy are like the shop skins that come in and like some like decorative things, but that's it. Except for when you buy the war bonds. But the war bonds that you buy, you can unlock the stuff in there. There's like 3 pages of goodies, equipment and stuff that, I think it's worth it. I think it's okay. In comparison, in reality, I prefer it to not exist. But, when you're looking at other companies and their practices, they look like saints. But I'd rather a regression back to this than keep going as it's going. but I digress. Because it's kind of evolving, the story of the game is evolving as well. So there are two war fronts, the automatons and the bugs that are trying to, well, Super Earth is saying that they're trying to invade Earth and destroy our way of life, when in reality that's not it. The bugs are just trying to survive and reacting to a war, because Super Earth uses their blood for I think it's called what is it? It is E1 IO or something like that. Basically, it's like the word oil but flipped upside down, because satire. And then the bots are trying to free their captive creators that are being ruled by Super Earth. And anyway, like that seems to be the story, and like it's evolving. So like you'll come on one day and it seems like the bugs have pushed up. So right now, as of doing this is going to date the episode, I tell you, the bugs, there's like a system being put on like a few barrier planets to like create some termicide, and players are going into that to try and like set up these machines to permanently stop the bugs from taking them. By this point, you probably, if you're playing the game, you'll know what's happened as a result of that. But sometimes like things will change. Like I came on today and one of the planets was being attacked and we had to defend it. So the game is changing, planets are being taken, and the war continues without you being involved. And some people might not like that, because if you didn't play for a week, the game might be in a different state. But at the same time, it feels like a living, breathing world, and that is really, really exciting. And you feel like you're actually part of something, and it fits a niche in the market, I think, of contributing to a shared universe. And as someone who loves world building in D&D and like collaborative storytelling, that's what this feels like. I feel like that the story isn't set, it's evolving based on our actions. Like if we don't defend a planet in time, it gets taken. If if we make a decision as a community, something might happen, something might not happen, it could change, and because of that it feels like an evolving game that you're part of the storytelling of. And so that whole element makes it like another level of a game, I think, in my opinion, which is why it's taken the community by storm, like the gaming world. I think there are a few times a game will come along and reshape how the gaming world works. I think Baldur's Gate 3 came last year and did the same thing. I mean, it was doing that when the early access came out, but when the full game released, it changed how a lot of RPGs, I think, will be made in the future. It's shown that a studio that isn't AAA, like they had a lot of funding, but they are not a AAA studio, you know. Or at least that's not where they came from. Then they weren't as like established in that sense. I mean, they obviously had a lot of other games, but my point being, like, they're not on the same level of Ubisoft or EA, and so it's proven that developers like that, independent studios, as big or small as they might be, they are capable of making games that outshine the ones that you would expect, like studios to come around, like Ubisoft making an Assassin's Creed every other year, you know. It feels like Helldivers 2 is the same thing for shooter games and for collaborative games. I would be surprised if EA are not looking at this going, actually I don't know if do EA still even have the rights to Star Wars. I thought they lost them after Battlefront. Either way, you know, is it Bungie that owns Halo as well, or is it just Destiny? Irregardless, you know, these studios with existing worlds are probably looking to Helldivers right now to judge the success and go, if this continues to last, there might be a Halo game that's exactly the same, or in the future there might be a Star Wars game where everyone's playing in a shared universe where the Empire are like taking planets and you're the rebellion trying to fight against them. Now that would be awesome. Can you imagine that as a Star Wars game? Or vice versa. Even Star Trek might be looking at something like this. The examples are endless, but the point is a game like this comes through and reshapes the entire market. And I think eyes are on Helldivers right now to see if the success lasts. I personally think it's going to. I think it's going to last a while. The player base is growing, and the gameplay loop is fun. I haven't even really talked about the game itself, but like, you can call down stratagems and like have orbital bombardments and bring in your I guess your dropship to drop bombs and stuff, and a whole bunch of equipment from rocket launchers to laser guns to guard dogs, which are like little drones that shoot at the enemies. There are vehicles that are going to be introduced. The enemy types are fun, like going from fighting the bugs to fighting the automatons is just so jarring. It's like two completely different games. It's like going from playing Starship Troopers to playing in a Terminator game, and it works. It works, and it's so much fun. Oh my gosh, man! I feel like this is one of the best games I've ever played. Genuinely, I don't say that lightly. The games in the last couple of years, I would say in the before this last year, about 4 or 5 years before that, nothing really has come along to shape me and go, that was, this has been a good year for gaming. The last time I would say that is probably back in 2020 or 2019, in and around the era of when the first Spider-Man came out, when we had Horizon, what else? I literally had a few games in my head, like Death Stranding, but that was a really interesting outlier. Ghost of Tsushima, most of these are PlayStation games, I understand, but those are the games that I would say, for me, were like, oh, I was really excited that year. But there's been a couple where I've just gone like, this feels so dead, It feels like nothing good is coming out. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 last year, Baldur's Gate 3, I think Horizon 2 went last year. I'm trying to remember, it might have been the year before that, can't recall. And then we've got some great announcements this year. Death Stranding 2, I'm so excited for that. I'm digressing here. Maybe I'll do a video out releasing games that have been announced I'm interested in. But yeah, bringing it back to my conversation, when I say that it's one of my favourite games and like a great year for gaming, I genuinely mean that. It just feels like it's like every game is like upping it and upping it and upping it. I loved Spider-Man 2, Baldur's Gate 3 when I got back into playing it. Outstanding. Helldivers 2, just so addicting. Unhealthily addicting maybe, but like addicting. Great gameplay. Yeah, you should definitely pick it up if you haven't played Helldivers 2. Go and check out some videos on it. I think you'll get a gauge of whether you'll find it interesting or not. I would say when you're looking at it, there's a chance you'll go, oh, this isn't, I can imagine this gets boring after the first few games. I think that's personality dependent. If the gameplay loop bores you, you won't enjoy the game. But I think the way in which missions play out, the variety, the evolving nature of the game, and how the difficulty system works, means that you will not find it as boring. You won't find it boring to play it again and again. like similar missions. But that's my personal thoughts and feelings on it. The difficulty system is really good. So, to my knowledge, enemies don't like become bullet sponges when you get harder levels. Enemies will always hit the same and always take the same amount of damage from you as you go up in difficulty. What changes is the spawn rate, the enemy types, the enemy variations, and the number of encounters and just general difficulty of like the gameplay itself. So when you're playing it, you may find that the more you go up in difficulty, the harder things become, based solely on just the amount of bugs. Like at the end of a mission, when you're playing on trivial, you might find like, oh, there's nothing here. Then you play on something like extreme, and the spawn at the end, the extraction point, is just a fug fest filled with a horde of bugs. So I think it's a rewarding experience, and the leveling system is fun. It can be a bit daunting playing with strangers, but I tell you what, if you're playing Helldivers, you love a bit of RP, and you want to play, hit me up. But the friend system doesn't work in Helldivers as of making this video, so best of luck trying to find me. But anyway, I think that's where I'm going to wrap things up today. Thank you very much for listening in. Just some thoughts on Helldivers, and I would say first impressions, but I have about 40 hours in the game, if not more. Close to 50 actually now. Over the last week or so, I've been playing it every free moment I have had. But if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, I'd appreciate it. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe, because you've watched this far, and I make a load of content like it. Just go and check out some of the videos appearing on the side of here, and I'll see you in whatever video comes next. Alright, take care.